Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to another session of Canvas Live. Canvas Live sessions are presented by the Canvas community members or instructor employees to help Canvas users like yourself improve and enhance their teaching and learning with Canvas. Today, we continue our session series on Ask Me Anything. With us, we have Hilary Scharton, who is the Vice President of Product Strategy for K-12. And she will be talking to you about some of the things that she does here at Instructure in order to help enhance the adoption and the use of Canvas in K-12 markets. So without further ado, Hilary.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. I am Hilary Scharton. I do product strategy. Some of you we may have met before. I've worked at Instructure for 5 years. This is how our product team splits out. Product strategy is actually a new role that we just recently added, and I often get questions about how that fits in with everybody else. So this is my attempt to explain that. Mitch Benson is the big boss. He runs everything in product. These folks down here are the useful building people who make all the fantastic stuff inside our software that we all love. And Jared and I are kind of nerdy outside of the development, research, and process people. Product strategy doesn't work with developers or work with UX on features. We don't prioritize paper cuts or do bugs or anything like that. What we do is like planning stuff. You can see I have some bullets here talking about the different activities that we do, and I'll run through those real quick so you can see an example of what those things are. But the reason that we added a strategy role to our product department was because we wanted to be super healthy as a company. Our goal in building Canvas is to provide software that helps education, because we believe, seriously believe, and we spend a lot of time talking about this, we believe education is the greatest force for good in the world. We know that awesome software can help teachers save time so that they can do more teaching, which only improves the world in general. But we also need to keep a focus on how we can have a healthy company that gives good people, that gives people good jobs. And so balancing those two things is very important to our long-term ability to be around and keep building Canvas and keep providing software that helps teaching and learning. So here's an example of the strategic roadmap for 2017. This is one of the very first priorities for the strategy group, is figuring out at a higher level the areas that we want to focus on. And you can see that there's 5 different areas here that we're going to focus on. They all kind of go back to a change for the better idea. Overcoming aversion to change is the idea that, at least in K-12, and I come from K-12, and you folks, I'm sure, if I could see you, would be nodding along with this. We don't really like to change. We don't like new initiatives. And so there's always some hesitancy to do something different. And we know that because a lot of us here have come from K-12, and we want to make our software easy to adopt, essentially. We want to be able to put tools in the hands of teachers and students that will overcome that aversion to doing things differently. We're also super focused on keeping you folks happy. We know that the success of our company depends on keeping you all happy. So we spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about the things that you need that you don't currently have to make yourselves successful. And then the middle one is actually one of the ones that I feel most passionate about, and that's how can we deliver tools to schools and teachers and students that actually provide real educational value and improve student achievement. We also, in the strategy group, have to look at expanding into other products and markets, and we can't forget about the marketplace in general, and that we're out there competing for business with other LMSs. So that's our strategic roadmap. When we break it down to short-term and themes, this is our actual roadmap. And some of you may have seen this on our community website. This is what we're doing. It's what we're building. There are no secrets. We really want people to be involved in helping us pick the things that are on here. If you folks have questions about any of these specific things, I'm happy to talk about that when we get to the question and answer portion. Another thing that strategy does is product marketing. And that is, if you've ever gotten pieces of paper from Canvas at a booth at a trade show or fun toys or things like that. Part of the street cred of a company in education is providing data around efficacy of a tool, especially in K-12, and talking in the market about things that might resonate. So my group spends some time producing things like this. This is a white paper that we produced recently that talks about evidence ways to improve student achievement based on Hattie, the researcher. Marketing. We also do market analysis, whether that's looking at budgets for K-12 in general or looking company specific, how our market share changed in comparison to some of our competitors. We also do research. This is some research that we just finished. We looked at the downloads of our new parent app, and we looked at student final grade data, and we found, I know this is going to shock you all, we found that parents who download the parent app tend to have students who get a higher grade as the final grade in their course, up to a letter grade better. I think it was 7% specifically. And we're not saying that Canvas did this thing, but our goal with Parent App was to lower the bar and make it easier for parents to be involved in their children's education, because we know that involved parents have students who perform better. So this was just validating initially whether we could see that in our data. And you can see more about that on our Canvas blog. We also do new products. I'm sure most, if not all of you, have heard about ARC, our video platform, and Bridge, our corporate learning platform. Some of the new things that we're researching right now are based on what we know about the most terrible software that exists in education right now, and some of that is around testing. Some more of that is around data and analytics. And how that works is we look around the education space and we say, where is there a really hard problem that makes people miserable? And is there a way that we could solve that either with software, so it's a new problem that we're solving with software, or is there any software out there that totally sucks, like our competitors did before we built Canvas? Is there anything out there that's so terrible that we should do it better and give people in education a better tool to use? So those are some of the things that we're investigating right now. And I would love to hear from any of you if you have ideas about a place where we could really improve your lives with software, or if there's something in your education day that just drives you batty. Even if it's not related to software, it's possible that that we could come up with a way to solve it that would make your life better. So I want to hear about it. Please feel free to email me, and we can chat anytime. All right, I know there are some questions that were posted in the community, so I'll go through the ones that I saw before this meeting started. From Gary, he was asking a question about data around using an LMS and what that does to student achievement. We've actually been writing a summary of this gigantic report that was put out by Project Red, which is a nonprofit teaching and learning kind of thing. And it made some, it's chock full of data, like 180 pages of data about what they did when they did a super big study of a bunch of different institutions who are using one-to-one computing and LMSs. So there's some great data in there. What he did find in Project Red was that there were lots of good things that happened when you roll out technology and use an LMS. And so that data is all in there. Project Red, if you Google it, will get you to that. And these were some of the other benefits from having an LMS: saving money, reducing behavior problems in the classroom, increasing teacher attendance, which had a bunch of links to teacher retention kinds of things, and then a whole bunch of higher order increasing achievement, graduation rates, that kind of stuff. Holly asked a question about getting parents more involved in what their students are doing online in Canvas. And is she here? Can we tell?
Let me see. We can't tell. Oh, yep, she is here. Hi, Holly. Hilary is adjusting your question now. So if you have any follow-up, go ahead and put it in the chat as well. Go ahead, Hilary.
Yeah, I'd love to really hear more, some more from Holly about what she's envisioning here. What I tend to hear from teachers, and I'm not saying that this is the side of the fence that I fall on, but what I tend to hear from teachers is we would prefer if we could control parent access a little bit more and have them involved in some very specific activities that go on in the classroom, but not all of them. And so I'm really curious, Holly, if what other feedback you have around this. Is it just assignment comment threads? Or are there other parts of Canvas that you'd really like your parents to have access to?
Holly says that she can see that aspect too. I think she can have, I think there are many perspectives there.
You know what, Holly, I would love to chat on the phone with you about this to see if we can get some more insight into how to solve this for you. If you wouldn't mind emailing me, Hilary@instructure.com, 1L, I'd love to set up a chat and hear some more about what you're doing at your school. Sounds super exciting that you want parents to be able to join in those assignment comments. So that's awesome. Ryan asked a question about K-3, and he was saying that right now the workflow for students to submit assignments in Canvas is a little unfortunate compared to some other kinds of software, and I can totally see that. We spend actually quite a bit of time talking about the needs of students in K-3. Well, actually, so students who are not reading to learn yet. We figure that's mostly K-3 because typically in 4th grade, you're expected to be able to read to learn, right? So that's the first year that that students are primarily consuming content by reading it. But there's also, ELL students and special ed students and high school teenagers who can't focus very well on written text and things like that. We haven't been talking about changing the assignment submission workflow, and I would love to hear some more about what workflow you're using, whether you'd like to see that better on mobile or the web. But here's what we are talking about. We know that the Canvas interface is text heavy, and it looks very middle school, high school, college. We're working on designs that will make a more icon-centered interface. What that's shaping up to look like is instead of words as much in the left-hand nav of your Canvas course and your Canvas website, using more icons there. So students will be able to recognize, oh, that looks like a paper I need to submit for an assignment. I'll click there to get assignments, and making the words less prominent and icons there more prominent. We're also talking about making a way for individual teachers to increase the text size of Canvas, because we know that looking at Canvas on an iPad or a smaller mobile device is harder for the younger kids when the words are smaller. We have a new feature in Canvas that we're building right now called Blueprint Courses that will allow essentially templates and master courses to be created and shared among your district. And I'd love to get everybody's feedback on this. I am looking into the feasibility of hiring like a visual designer to make some templates for that, so that we would have, 3 or 4 or 5 really easy to use button-friendly, graphic, colorful course templates that folks could download and then just edit the template, right, to put in, the title of their course, and this is the reading button, and here is where you go to put in quizzes and things like that. I'd love your feedback about whether that's something that would be helpful to you. We're also talking about, and here's another thing I'd love your feedback on, is integrating with mobile learning games. We have some data from the mobile gaming industry and the education industry that says a majority of teachers in elementary school have some portion of time during the week where their students are independently playing mobile games, and I mean mobile learning games like MathFish, on devices in the classroom. I remember being in the classroom and having my students do activities like that in other pieces of software where they were essentially doing practice, and I knew that they were providing evidence of their mastery of outcomes in those other pieces of software. But it would have been really a heavy lift to get all of that data translated into a form where I could use it as part of my data recording in the classroom, right? I don't understand why that's still a problem in 2017, that we haven't solved in education. How come mobile learning games like MathFish and others like that, how come they don't send learning mastery data back to a gradebook or an LMS, or provide it in a format that's easily consumable so that I can use that good live performance mastery data as part of my assessment of student learning and use it to drive the instruction that I'm doing in the classroom. So that's another thing that we're talking about right now. Oh, Bree, comments. This is a great question. She wanted to know, how come we can't preview an item in Commons and see what it looks like before we have to import it into our course? And all I have to say to that is, heck yeah. In fact, yesterday in our office, we had 40 community members come to our office, community like Canvas community. We flew people in from all across the US, and they helped us identify what was really important to them as far as additions or enhancements to Canvas is concerned. And so we spent the whole day, and they prioritized a lot of different work through that process. One of the things that was super important to them was this previewability in Commons. And so we put it on the list of ideas that we'd like to look into more. We did tell the folks who came to Project Khaki that we would spend quite a bit of time working on the things that they prioritized, and there are a whole list of those. I think at some point they will be shared in the community. We won't get to everything, so this may be something that we're not able to get done. However, it was like number 4. So I predict that that this feature has a really high likelihood of being something that you'll see sometime in the relatively near future. Holly from earlier also asked a questions about Commons, about whether or not we could have a URL to link easily to a Commons resource, and that's a great question that I actually don't know the answer to. I don't know if anyone is talking about that or working on it, but I can follow up with our folks who do Commons. That's Kate McGee, if you've talked to her or have her contact information already. But Holly, if you'll email me, I will send you either the answer or Kate's contact information so we can get that answer for you. And those are all the questions that I saw in the community for this meeting.
Yeah, and there's some additional questions, Hilary, that are coming in the chat. The first one comes from Christopher. He dislikes the way, let me pull that up real quick, the differences in sort of user roles. So for instance, a teacher can embed images in Canvas discussion, but students can't because they have different steps involved. Is there going to be more parity across users in that regard? That's the first question.
You know, that was actually another thing that they prioritized. Can you still see my presentation, or has it switched to my face? I'm having a hard time telling.
It's switched over to your face.
Oh, fantastic. So that was actually another thing that our Project Khaki guests talked quite a bit about, and was another thing that they prioritized. I don't know the technical level of effort that would be involved there, so we still have some digging to do, but it did make the list. If you would like to, again, email me with that specific question, I can loop you in with the product person who will have more information about whether or not that's going to be something happening in the near term.
We have another question from Terry. She says, I want parents to see the student calendar that the student enters. We don't use the parent app because of how you attach students to parents.
You want parents to say that?
Yeah, sure. I want parents to see the student calendar that the student sees. We don't use the parent app because of how it requires you to attach the student to, or link the student to the parent.
That's great feedback. I think that I need more details to be able to understand that. I do know that coming up, and this is some secret development that we're doing for InstructureCon. We will have a different way for students to look at Canvas on the website, and we are focusing on more of a planner view. It'll be kind of like a planner on steroids, and you'll all see that at InstructureCon when you come and join us in Keystone. Until then, our mobile team will be working on the parent app, which you may have noticed on the short-term roadmap. But I know that they will be going back. Did I see teacher app or parent app? Our mobile teams are working on the teacher app until InstructureCon, but I know after that we'll be revisiting both Canvas and parents. So it would be great if we could have a really good understanding of what it is that's unfortunate about that before y'all go home for the summer.
Great. Another comment from Lisa. Many teachers are disappointed that there isn't a whiteboard option for students to submit assignments with.
Have you looked in collaborations? I know there is a whiteboard in there, but I'm sorry, I just do need a little bit more information about what you mean by a whiteboard to submit assignments. Are we talking about students being able to annotate like on a worksheet that you've uploaded digitally? Do you want them to draw a picture? I just need a little bit more information about these specific feature things. I'm sorry, this is not, it's not actually part of the things that I do every day is dealing with these specific feature level requests.
There's a lot of excitement and enthusiasm in the chat about the Commons preview as I'm going through the comments, and the enthusiasm around the Google integration as well.
Awesome. Me too for Commons preview. Super excited about that.
Just continuing on with the question. Let's see. If there are any, would you like to address any of the questions that are coming in through the event page? Let me do a quick refresh. No more new questions except for Ron. Maybe this would be, he has a pretty extensive question, but let's just kind of break some of it down just to one of them. He was curious to know if you sit on a committee with other VPs that reviews all sorts of different product ideas. In other words, maybe address how your strategy aligns with or coordinates with some of the other strategies for like higher ed, how that balances out in terms of resources, perhaps would be a good place to start.
Yes, Jared and I do work together very closely. It turns out that a lot of teaching and learning is the same across K-12 and higher ed. And what I mean by that is how students learn is not super different when you're 18 or when you're 8. So a lot of the things that we know will be helpful in classrooms and helpful for students and helpful as part of Canvas are similar between K-12 and higher ed. We do divide effort a little bit when it comes to where things will be most impactful. So like, for example, as we're talking about assessment and whether the assessment market is something that we as a company feel like we should take on, I'm taking the lead on that research because assessment, formative assessment and summative assessment really are much bigger in K-12. There's a lot more expertise around proving student progress in K-12 than there is in most departments in higher ed. And I know that that's not always true. Special education and teaching and psychology departments often are really good at that as well. But so we do split effort like that. But we talk a lot about adjacent areas in education where we feel like we could make a difference. And when we're talking about those things like ARC and Bridge, what we're talking about is taking some of our instructure money and essentially starting a new business. We're not taking developers off of Canvas. We're not taking product people from Canvas or having any kind of a split effort there. We're talking about spinning up brand new teams to build new things, which is super nice.
We have another question from Adam. Do you see a merging between websites and the apps with progressive web apps?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Sure. Do you see a merging between the website, Canvas website, and the apps with progressive web apps?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know if I see a complete merging, but here's what I am seeing. All of the development in Canvas is now required to be mobile friendly. You should be able to hit any link in Canvas on any size mobile device and be able to consume your content. That's something that's super important to us. We also know that nobody uses their mobile device to look at the web, right? When you want to go to Facebook, you don't open your mobile browser and type in www.facebook.com. You want to touch the app and explore that way in an app that's designed to feel like it belongs on your device. What we've chosen for right now is to make persona-specific mobile apps. So there won't be one Canvas app to rule them all. It'll be a student app, a teacher app, a parent app. And we got voted down yesterday on the admin app, in spite of it being mostly admins in the room. So that might be further off in the future. It might never happen. But what we really want to do is focus on the workflows that are most used, that people want to do on their mobile devices. So not creating, tons of really complex content, because nobody wants to do that on their mobile device. But the things you use every day, making sure that that's a really easy workflow in the mobile app, and the things that you might want to get to that aren't super common, that there's a way to do that, a way to navigate to those things via the mobile device without having to relog in, which is something that's technically a challenge with mobile apps right now. I don't know if that answered the question.
Thank you. Adam, if you have any follow-up or comments to that, feel free to post them in the chat. This isn't a specific question, but as the conversation is sort of unfolding here, from the whiteboard question earlier, math, the topic of, or the subject of math came up, and math seems to be often a challenging part of Canvas to deliver math sort of assignments and sort of assessments. And being that that's a huge part of K-12 as well, any thoughts on addressing some of those challenges in that specific subject-specific area?
Absolutely. Math is always a problem, and it's always something super important, right? We want students to be able to show their work. We want to be able to do really quick formative assessment in the classroom and understand whether or not we need to reteach this thing or if everybody's good to go on. We have made some small steps towards easing the burden a little bit on that with the app. You can take pictures of things that students are doing right now. There's also the magic marker to collect live data points, but not the actual evidence of learning. What I've seen a lot of teachers do with Canvas in the classroom is have students engage in the activities that they're currently doing, especially in elementary school when we're playing with manipulables and things like that, or we're doing group work. As the students get older, they're taking a lot of pictures and submitting those so that teachers can look at that a little bit later. We are, this is super secret, don't tweet this, we are looking at a partnership with another piece of software that does paper scoring, so you could print a bubble sheet and then automatically score it, things like that. But they also have some additional functionality that's super cool, like being able to grade those kinds of worksheet activities more quickly by identifying, the teacher would identify the spot on the page where the answer would be, and then the software would attempt to recognize the handwriting and see if the answer was right there, to kind of facilitate that so that teachers, when they're grading, could know where they needed to go and look and pay attention, or if they could, mentally skip some portions of homework assignments, right? Because it does take, I've graded things by paper, math things by paper, by hand myself, and it does take quite a bit of time. Things like that we can do to free up time for teachers are where we're currently focusing. But if you have ideas about how we could better facilitate that, I'd love to hear about it.
Thank you. We have another question from Krista. We have struggled with having the app on devices in our district that are shared among students because of the logout process and being able to get into someone else's account. Any thoughts on this? So I'm assuming it's one-to-one, the one-to-one devices and things like that, those types of...
Yes, I have a great answer that Krista's going to love. We're actually doing some work right now as part of a partnership that we're doing with Apple, where we're enabling the fingerprint login ID on iOS devices. And this is what the workflow would look like. If you have a class set of devices, right, and your last class leaves and your next one comes in, the student from last hour didn't log out of Canvas. When the new student picks up the device, opens it up, Canvas will ask for your fingerprint to authenticate you as you're opening the Canvas app. And if your fingerprint doesn't authenticate, then you'll be taken back to the login screen to either fingerprint ID with your fingerprint and username, or to put in your login credentials, which is really cool. I think that's awesome, especially for our elementary friends.
Another question from Christopher. He had, I'll just paraphrase, I think asked about how to get more involved in things like Project Khaki or those meetings that you were referring to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to sort of be on the radar for stuff like that?
The invitees for Project Khaki came directly from people who could participate in the community. Secondarily, we spoke with our CSMs and our customer service managers, who all of you have one, and they gave us some input about who would be super vocal in their feedback to us, because that's what we were looking for. We weren't looking for folks who would come and have not opinions. We wanted to hear, it's always nice to hear good things, but we really want to hear about what it is that sucks in Canvas, and what you folks need to do your jobs in the classroom better. So yeah, be involved is the answer. Be involved in your community. Make sure you're talking to your CSM. Come to Canvas user groups and CanvasCon if you can, and InstructureCons and things like that. Just be involved. If you want to have your voice heard, it will be. There are so many ways that we get feedback from our community.
And then another sort of comment from Christopher as well, mostly regarding product adoption, Canvas adoption by district, and the partnership that occurs with our product engagement team. Maybe talk to that a little bit more and how they help with pedagogy and best practices on that. Is there a formal process for K-12, or is there some, or is that something that the district or school has to go through CSM?
So our product engagement team, for those of you who haven't heard of them before, that was actually the last team that I led. We built that team because what we noticed, and this is nothing new, we all know this, in K-12, and I'm saying this about myself, I kind of sucked at rolling out software, right? I was not very good at making a plan and getting it off the ground and getting people bought in, and all the change management that you have to do with teachers and principals and faculty and admins and everyone else, the entire community, when we were rolling out software in K-12. And the product engagement team is designed to be our in-house experts to help handle that problem. So it's 5 or 6 or maybe 7 now folks who came from K-12 who have rolled out software to more than 2,000 different schools and districts. The leader of the team, Mindy Hinsey, rolled out Canvas to the entire state of Utah. So there's a lot of street cred there about what works in education as you're rolling out new initiatives, and what's not gonna fly. In order to engage their help, if you're an existing client, all you have to do is ask your CSM. The CSMs are able to request product engagement people either join a phone call or make a site visit where you can talk about where your adoption of Canvas is today and where you want it to be, and we'll figure out goals and metrics to get you to a place where you're feeling like your district is most successful, or we're meeting the goals that you would like Canvas to help you meet. But that's definitely something that's available to every Canvas client, and we do a smaller version of what the adoption and engagement team is able to do with every new client who we onboard. So if you didn't experience that, you're probably a little bit older of a Canvas client. And I'm sorry, we learned from you, and we're doing it better going forward.
So another question from Ryan. You had previously mentioned adjusting the app to include more images and less text. Is the plan to adjust the current app or make a brand new app for younger students? And is this specifically to the app or maybe just Canvas in general?
Yeah, when I was talking about getting templates designed and having a more icon-heavy interface and a less text-heavy interface, I was talking specifically about the web app. So going to Canvas on a browser. Those are the things we're thinking of there. Thinking about how students consume Canvas content on mobile devices is another huge area for interest. And I know that there are some places in our community where we're talking about course design best practices for things like that. In general, We're talking about how to increase the real estate on your mobile device for actually consuming the content of a course and having less of the Canvas Chrome that you see on your mobile device, as well as making it easier for you know, the shorter students, the younger kids in K through 3, making it more like playing a story, right? So remembering where you left off and being able to easily navigate around like that. We don't have any designs that are good yet, so I don't have any concrete details, but it is something that we spend a lot of time talking about.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Please feel free to post them in the chat, or if I've missed them, please repost. I think I've gotten most of everybody's comments or captured most of the questions.
Oh, I see fingerprinting all of our kids. Yes. Yeah, that's going to be the new Canvas policy. We fingerprint everyone. Parents are going to love it. Of course, that'll be optional, using students' fingerprint as their ID for authentication in Canvas. Totally optional.
So if there are no more questions, feel free to always go back to the event page and post your questions there. We'll keep an eye on it if there are any follow-up questions, and I'll make sure that Hilary takes an opportunity to kind of review those one more time. We will also be posting the transcript as well, the chat transcript under the event page.
Thanks, everyone. Remember to email me directly with anything you need, Hilary10@instructure.com.
Awesome. And thank you, Hilary, for taking the time to share with us some of your insight and kind of how to help move and evolve the product into the K-12 market. Thanks, everyone, for, yep. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We will send out surveys so that we can get your feedback on ways we can improve Canvas Live sessions in general and bring out more of these events as well. And we'll see you in the community. Have a great day. Thank you, Hilary, again.
Bye.